Hello there. Here I am again trying to make another video. And I have answered questions before that students have asked me when we have a Zoom meeting and that are dealing with my life and the way we lived during World War II. I have answered the question from where I was born, which of course was Berlin, Germany. And I have also answered the question what I can tell you about my family when I was growing up. I was just a normal child like any other child. But I definitely had hard times to go through when I became of school age. The other question was what my father was doing for a living. And I answered this to the best of my ability. He was a police officer and worked himself up from being a patrolman all the way into becoming an officer. And of course, he was under Adolf Hitler's big and hard thumb all of his police career. The other question I was asked, what was it like to grow up in the 1930s and 40s? And again, I answered this to the best of my ability because I was born in 1934, was a small child, and really did not know too much about what was going on around me because I was too tiny to really have an opinion on anything. I was a normal little girl and toddler until I started school. And I started school in 1940, and that brought me in connection with what really was going on around me in my hometown, in not so much in my country, but in my hometown. The other question again that was asked is where did I go to school? And do I remember any of my teachers? And then the next one was what did I do for fun? Well, I remember some of my teachers, not all of them. And I'm not quite sure if I answered the question in my other videos about my teachers. There was one teacher that was very dear to me, and it was in my first and second grade. And she was taken away from me because she apparently was of Jewish nationality, a German born Jew. And Adolf Hitler didn't like the Jewish race for some reason, which we could never understand why, but he had a hatred for the Jewish race. And this teacher that we all loved so much was taken away from us during school session by force. Soldiers came in and they took her away, and she was strong enough to turn around and stop us from giving the German greeting, which was Heil Hitler, using Hitler's name by saying Hail Hitler. She was strong enough to stop us from doing that, and then she was taken away from us, never to be seen again. This left a big impression on me as a youngster and also on my other school friends. They missed her as much as I did. When I asked my parents questions, they really could not answer them too well, except they knew that the Jewish people were taken to what they were told about, and they were told about that they were taken to camps. But they were definitely not told that these camps were concentration camps and death camps. No one knew this till the war ended. And then it hit us like a big fist right in the middle of our face, and it tore our hearts apart. This is what I know about this question. I had a good teacher to start with, a sweet teacher. We loved her, and Adolf Hitler took her away from us. The other teacher I remember well was after the war. And her name I remember, her name was Mrs. Kuttner. And she took over and tried to teach us in a few years what we were missing out at school, because from the third grade up to the fifth grade, we practically had no school because of the bombing raids over Berlin and any place over Germany where we were at, there were bombing raids. And we were missing out on school. All of us, not just me, all of Germany's children were missing out on school. So the next teacher I remember very well was a lady that was single, never married, had no children, but her classroom became her family. And again, we loved her with all that was in us. And I remember her up to the age of 88. because she was the sweetest woman that I can talk about. And she was my teacher from the seventh through the eighth grade. In the ninth grade, I had another teacher. So this is what I remember about my teachers. The first one being Jewish and being taken away, and the other one that came after the war ended being the sweetest thing on two legs that anyone could want to be around. And she kind of took the place of our mothers that sometimes couldn't be at home but were working moms. They were helping to rebuild Berlin. Berlin, the town that was in total rubble and ashes. So we children were mostly left to our own devices, and our moms had to go to work. And they became the rebel women that helped to rebuild a war-torn city. And then the question of what I did for fun. Well, I played hopscotch, I played hide and seek, I sang songs, I played with my friends, the school friends I had, at first with the tiny ones, because first, second grade, and so forth. I had small friends, they were small as I was. And then when I became a teenager, I had the more mature friends, and we played hopscotch and rope, and we were out on the school grounds. And we talked with each other, and sometimes about the serious subjects, because we were certainly going through World War II, and there were certain fears that we had, and we talked about these fears amongst each other. The other question that is really an important one is the question number 7 on this Zoom sheet. Were you aware of the war and what was happening around the world? Did you talk about it with your parents? This is a very, very serious question. And yes, when the war started, I was aware of that things were changing. The air raids, daytime and nighttime, us eventually not being able to go to school because the air raids were so frequent that we had to stay at home and go into the basement for shelter with our parents. Or my parents were divorced, me was just my mother. And we sat in the dark in that air raid shelter of a nighttime by candlelight, in the daytime of looking at the closed windows, but hearing all the noises that a war could bring. The air raid sirens going off and the airplanes flying overhead dropping bombs. And these bombs made a special sound. When they left that airplane, they whistled. You could hear the whistling coming down, even so you were in an air raid shelter. And they whistled, and then when they were close, the whistling stopped. And when you heard silence like that, we got off of the chairs we were sitting on and went to the ground and put our hands behind our heads, because this meant our house could be hit by this bomb that was coming down. Of a nighttime was daytime. Everything was fiery red. Fire engines going, ambulances going, people running and rushing around. Some of them were crying, some of them were screaming. Others were sitting on the ground just with folded hands saying their prayers. And this was a daily thing that I could see, whether it was daytime or nighttime, when I came out of this air raid shelter. I also saw in the daytime, when I was looking out of my window and no air raid was going on, trucks driving up in front of our house, soldiers getting off. And they were going into the other houses and bringing out people that were our neighbors. And they must have been like my teacher, Jewish people. And they were taken away. So everything that I saw that was war related was scary, and scary to a little girl like me. And I wasn't the only one. All the others were just as afraid and scared as I was. Did I talk to my parents about it? Of course I did. When I stood at an open window and I saw the trucks and the soldiers coming and going and bringing people out that had to climb on those trucks, I called my mom to the window. And I would ask her, Mom, where are they going? And honestly, my mom really didn't have any answers to this question. And no more than any of the other people that I would ask would have any answers to this question. All that our parents and grandparents knew was that there were labor camps and that these people were working in these labor camps, even so they were behind barbed wires and taken away out of the midst of us. They were working people that were helping the war effort, but behind barbed wire fences. In no way did we know that these barbed wire fences, or whatever they were, tall fences, we did not know what was going on behind these fences. And that everything we saw on newsreels in a movie theater was nothing but a big, big lie. And we German people lived under this lie till the war ended. And when the truth came out and everything hit us right in the face, then the Jewish people returned from the concentration camp to be again among all of us. When we heard their stories, our hearts were ripped into little tiny pieces. We could not believe the cruelty that was going on and that we really, really were not aware of that. We felt shame inside of us, and I think I said that in a previous video. That shame was felt by me, my mom, my dad, grandparents, which I lost in 1945 right after the war. But we felt ashamed, and our hearts were broken. And this brokenness really never goes really away. It stays with us. And when I talk in my videos about what we went through before, during the war, and then also after the war, when I talk about those things, this brokenness hits me over and over and over again. And I talk about it and my feelings about this so that we learn from it and it would never, never, never happen again. So if you see this video and you get any good from what I've been saying, please protect this precious freedom that we have here in the United States up to this point, so that you and your families never have to go through what I went through and my families went through. And with this, I'm going to stop this video. And I hope when you see it and hear it, it will help you somehow. So be careful, be aware. And with this, I'm going to close and say, God bless you. And next time, more.